Here's a 500-word introduction in a classic prosperity consciousness style, written as a speech and designed to flow naturally into a longer motivational message. Money comes to me under grace, in perfect ways. These words are far more than a pleasant affirmation. They are a declaration of trust. They are a recognition that there is a higher order governing every area of life, including abundance, opportunity, success, and financial increase. When you begin to understand this truth, you stop chasing money with fear, anxiety, and desperation. Instead, you open yourself to receive what already belongs to you by divine right. Many people have been taught that money is difficult to obtain, that prosperity belongs only to a fortunate few, or that struggle is the price of success. They spend years fighting against invisible barriers of doubt, worry, and limitation. Yet the greatest obstacle is often not outside of them. It is within their own consciousness. The moment a person accepts lack as permanent, they unknowingly close the door to greater possibilities. The moment they expect disappointment, they prepare themselves to receive it. But there is another way to live. There is a way to move through life with confidence, expectancy, and peace. A way of knowing that every need can be supplied through channels both expected and unexpected. A way of believing that opportunities are always being prepared, doors are always opening, and blessings are always seeking expression. When this understanding takes root in the mind, circumstances begin to reflect it. Money is not merely paper, numbers, or possessions. It is a symbol of exchange. It represents value, service, circulation, and flow. Just as a river must continue moving to remain fresh, abundance must be allowed to flow freely through thought and action. Fear restricts the flow. Doubt blocks the flow. Resentment interrupts the flow. Gratitude, faith, and expectation restore it. When you say, "Money comes to me under grace," you are refusing to depend solely upon human planning and limited appearances. You are acknowledging a wisdom greater than your own. You are affirming that the perfect opportunities, ideas, and circumstances are already being arranged on your behalf. You are releasing the burden of forcing outcomes and replacing it with the certainty that what is meant for you cannot be withheld from you. And when you add the words, "in perfect ways," you remove struggle from the equation. You no longer dictate how abundance must arrive. You no longer limit the channels through which good can come. You make room for surprises, miracles, unexpected opportunities, and favorable outcomes that the logical mind could never have predicted. Today, as you listen to these words, allow yourself to adopt a new expectation. Release every belief that says there is not enough. Release every memory of financial disappointment. Release every fear concerning the future. Stand in the awareness that there is a limitless source of supply, and that this source is capable of meeting every need, exceeding every expectation, and guiding you toward greater abundance than you have ever imagined. Everything in the outer world begins in the inner world. Before any condition appears in your life, it first exists as a thought, a belief, an expectation, or an image held in consciousness. This principle applies to every area of life, including money. The amount of abundance a person experiences is often closely connected to the ideas they entertain about prosperity, success, opportunity, and their own worthiness to receive good. Many people spend years attempting to change external circumstances, without realizing that the foundation of those circumstances was laid within their own minds. From childhood, people absorb countless beliefs about money. Some are taught that wealth is scarce and difficult to obtain. Others hear that financial success requires constant struggle, sacrifice, and worry. These ideas may seem harmless at first, yet they quietly settles into the subconscious mind and begin directing expectations. A person who believes money is hard to earn often finds themselves encountering situations that appear to confirm that belief. Opportunities seem limited. Progress feels slow. Financial pressure becomes familiar. The external world simply reflects the assumptions held within. The mind is like fertile soil. Whatever is planted there grows. If seeds of fear, lack, and limitation are continually planted, those conditions eventually appear in experience. If seeds of faith, abundance, and expectation are planted instead, they too begin producing results. The subconscious mind does not argue, debate, or judge. It accepts repeated thoughts as instructions, and works tirelessly to bring them into expression. This is why it is so important to become aware of the conversations taking place within your own mind. Every day, people silently repeat statements about money without realizing their power. They say things such as, "I never have enough," "money disappears as soon as it arrives," or "financial success happens to other people, not me." Even when spoken casually, these statements carry creative influence. The subconscious receives them as facts and begins organizing experiences around them. A new financial reality often begins with a new mental atmosphere. Instead of focusing on what is missing, attention can be directed toward what is possible. Instead of expecting obstacles, one can begin expecting solutions. Instead of dwelling on past disappointments, one can create a vision of greater prosperity and hold it steadily in consciousness. The mind responds to whatever it consistently contemplates. Abundance consciousness is not pretending that challenges do not exist. It is choosing to place greater attention on supply than on lack. It is understanding that possibilities are always greater than appearances. A person with an abundance mindset recognizes that opportunities can emerge unexpectedly. New ideas can arrive at any moment, and circumstances can change more quickly than logic would suggest. When thoughts become aligned with abundance, emotions begin to change as well. Anxiety gives way to confidence. Scarcity gives way to gratitude. Fear gives way to expectancy. These emotional shifts are significant because feelings impress ideas more deeply upon the subconscious mind. A thought charged with faith becomes far more powerful than a thought accompanied by doubt. Gratitude plays a particularly important role in developing abundance consciousness. When a person appreciates the good already present in life, they direct attention toward supply rather than deficiency. Gratitude communicates to the subconscious that abundance exists now. This mental and emotional state attracts additional experiences that correspond with it. The grateful mind becomes increasingly aware of opportunities, resources, connections, and possibilities that may have previously gone unnoticed. Visualization also strengthens abundance consciousness. By imagining desired outcomes as already accomplished, the mind becomes familiar with prosperity. The subconscious responds to vivid mental pictures and begins treating them as natural expectations. As these expectations become established, actions, decisions, and opportunities often begin aligning with them in surprising ways. The most important realization is that true abundance begins before money appears in a bank account, before opportunities arrive, and before circumstances visibly improve. It begins as a state of consciousness. Wealth first exists as an inner conviction that supply is available, that good is unfolding, and that prosperity belongs naturally within the experience of life. When this conviction becomes stable, the outer world gradually rearranges itself to reflect the abundant patterns established within the mind. Money flows under divine grace, not through struggle alone, not through force, and not through endless striving. There is a higher order operating behind the visible events of life, an intelligence that knows the perfect way to bring every good thing into expression. When people rely entirely on personal effort, while carrying fear, doubt, and anxiety, they often create resistance within themselves. They become so focused on how abundance must arrive that they overlook the countless ways it could appear. Grace works differently. Grace moves beyond human limitations and opens channels that the logical mind may never have imagined. Many people spend years believing that financial success requires constant struggle. They assume that life must be difficult before rewards can be received. This belief often causes them to expect obstacles at every turn. They prepare for disappointment before opportunities even arrive. They anticipate delays before progress begins. The mind becomes conditioned to look for hardship, and because attention is directed toward difficulty, difficulty seems to appear everywhere. Grace invites a completely different perspective. It encourages the understanding that abundance can arrive with harmony, ease, and perfect timing. This does not mean a person stops taking action or abandons responsibility. Rather, it means they act with trust instead of fear. They move forward expecting support instead of opposition. They understand that there are forces working in their favor, even when they cannot yet see visible evidence. When a person affirms that money comes under grace, they release the burden of controlling every detail. They no longer insist that prosperity must arrive through one specific job, one particular client, one exact opportunity, or one predetermined source. They recognize that supply has countless channels. New opportunities can appear unexpectedly. Helpful connections can emerge at the right moment. Ideas can arrive that transform financial circumstances. Resources can be provided through paths that were previously hidden from view. Grace often operates through what some might call coincidence. A conversation leads to an opportunity. A chance meeting opens a door. An idea appears at exactly the right moment. Information arrives when it is most needed. What seems accidental on the surface may actually be the result of perfect alignment taking place behind the scenes. The individual who trusts in grace remains open to these possibilities rather than dismissing them. Fear tends to narrow perception. When people worry constantly about money, they become focused on problems instead of solutions. They see barriers instead of openings. They become attached to appearances and assume that current conditions determine future outcomes. Grace expands perception. It allows people to see beyond temporary circumstances and recognize that new possibilities are always emerging. Trust is an essential element of allowing grace to operate. Trust does not mean passive waiting. It means maintaining confidence while taking inspired action. It means believing that every step is being guided toward greater good, even when the entire path is not yet visible. A person living in this awareness remains calm in situations that once produced anxiety. They understand that temporary delays do not mean denial and that apparent setbacks can become pathways to unexpected blessings. Another important aspect of grace is timing. Human beings often want immediate results. They become discouraged when things do not happen according to personal schedules. Yet grace works according to perfect timing, rather than human impatience. Certain opportunities require preparation, certain connections must be formed, certain circumstances must align before greater good can unfold. What seems like a delay may actually be protection, preparation, or redirection towards something far better. The phrase "under grace" also carries an atmosphere of peace. It removes struggle from consciousness. It replaces force with faith and tension with expectancy. Instead of asking, "How will I make this happen?" the mind begins asking, "What wonderful channel is being prepared for me now?" This subtle shift creates openness. It allows abundance to flow more freely, because resistance is no longer being created through fear and doubt. When people understand that money flows under grace, they stop viewing prosperity as a distant goal that must be chased relentlessly. They begin seeing it as a natural expression of divine order. They expect supply to meet demand. They expect opportunities to appear. They expect guidance to be available. They expect favorable outcomes to emerge from situations that once seemed uncertain. Their thoughts become aligned with possibility. Their emotions become aligned with confidence. And their attention becomes aligned with the many ways abundance can reveal itself through perfect and harmonious channels. Fear and limitation are among the greatest barriers to abundance. They do not merely influence emotions, they shape expectations, decisions, and perceptions. Many people desire greater prosperity, yet at the same time carry deep fears about money, success, and the future. These fears often operate quietly beneath conscious awareness, influencing behavior in ways that prevent the very blessings they hope to receive. To experience greater abundance, it becomes necessary to release these patterns and create space for a new way of thinking. Fear is based upon the belief that there is not enough. It whispers that opportunities are scarce, that resources are limited, and that success is reserved for only a fortunate few. When fear dominates the mind, it causes people to focus on what they lack rather than what is available. Their attention becomes fixed on problems, shortages, and obstacles. Because attention is a powerful force, whatever receives consistent focus tends to grow larger in awareness. A person worried about financial loss often expects loss. Someone who fears failure may hesitate to act when opportunities appear. Another who fears rejection may avoid pursuing valuable connections or possibilities. In each case, fear influences behavior and creates outcomes that seem to confirm the original belief. What began as a thought eventually becomes an experience. Limitation often develops through repeated exposure to negative ideas. A person may have experienced financial struggles in the past. They may have heard stories about economic hardship, observed others living in lack, or encountered disappointments that shaped their expectations. Over time, these experiences can form mental boundaries. The individual begins to believe that prosperity is difficult, uncertain, or unattainable. These beliefs settle into the subconscious mind and become accepted as reality. The challenge is that limitation frequently disguises itself as practicality. People may say they are simply being realistic, when in fact, they are repeating assumptions rooted in fear. They may reject opportunities before exploring them. They may lower expectations before giving themselves a chance to succeed. They may expect disappointment because it feels safer than expecting success. This pattern keeps abundance at a distance. To release fear, it is first necessary to recognize it. Many fears persist because they remain unexamined. A person may continuously worry about money without questioning the beliefs that create that worry. By becoming aware of recurring thoughts, limiting assumptions can be identified and challenged. Questions such as, is this belief absolutely true, or what if a greater possibility exists? Begin opening the mind to new perspectives. Faith becomes the natural replacement for fear. Faith is not blind optimism. It is confidence in possibilities that are not yet visible. It is the understanding that present appearances do not determine future outcomes. Faith allows a person to expect good even when circumstances seem uncertain. It creates an atmosphere within consciousness where abundance can grow. Words play an important role in this transformation. The statements people repeat daily gradually become accepted by the subconscious mind. Someone who constantly says, "I can't afford it," reinforces a feeling of limitation. Someone who repeatedly declares, "There is always a way," begins strengthening a different expectation. The mind responds to repetition. Positive, empowering statements gradually replace old patterns and establish new beliefs. Visualization can also help dissolve limitation. When individuals consistently imagine themselves living with greater freedom, prosperity, and confidence, they begin creating a mental blueprint for abundance. The subconscious mind becomes familiar with success rather than struggle. New possibilities start feeling natural instead of distant or unrealistic. Another powerful step involves releasing attachment to past experiences. Many people allow previous disappointments to dictate future expectations. Because something did not work before, they assume it will not work now. Because they encountered difficulty in the past, they expect difficulty to continue. Yet every moment contains new opportunities. The future is not obligated to repeat the past. When old disappointments are released, space is created for new outcomes. Gratitude also weakens fear. It shifts attention away from scarcity and toward existing blessings. A grateful person becomes aware of resources, opportunities, talents, and support systems already present in life. This awareness strengthens confidence and reduces the tendency to focus on what is missing. Gratitude reminds the mind that supply already exists and that additional good can continue to flow. As fear loses its influence, decisions become clearer. Opportunities are approached with confidence rather than hesitation. Possibilities are explored instead of dismissed. The mind becomes receptive to new ideas, unexpected channels, and favorable outcomes. Limitation begins to dissolve because it is no longer being reinforced through thought, emotion, and expectation. A new consciousness emerges, one that recognizes abundance as available, opportunities as plentiful, and prosperity as a natural expression of life. Expectation is one of the most powerful forces operating within human consciousness. Whether people realize it or not, they are constantly expecting something. They expect certain outcomes, certain experiences, certain reactions from others, and certain results from life. These expectations act like invisible instructions given to the subconscious mind. Over time, the mind begins organizing thoughts, emotions, actions, and perceptions around what it believes is likely to happen. This is why expectation plays such a significant role in the creation of abundance. Many individuals unknowingly expect lack. They may desire prosperity, but beneath that desire they anticipate disappointment. They hope for success while secretly preparing for failure. They dream about financial freedom while assuming that obstacles will appear at every step. The subconscious mind receives mixed messages. On the surface there is desire, but underneath there is doubt. Because expectation carries tremendous influence, doubt often weakens the results people seek to create. The mind naturally moves in the direction of its dominant expectations. When a person consistently expects delays, they notice every delay. When they expect rejection, they become highly sensitive to signs of rejection. When they expect financial struggle, their attention gravitates toward evidence that confirms that belief. Life begins reflecting the assumptions held within consciousness. This principle works in both directions. Just as negative expectations can create limitation, positive expectations can create opportunity. When people begin expecting good, they become more aware of favorable circumstances. They recognize possibilities that might have gone unnoticed before. They approach situations with greater confidence. Their actions become more effective because they are no longer driven by fear. Expecting good does not mean ignoring reality or pretending challenges do not exist. It means choosing to believe that solutions are greater than problems. It means maintaining confidence that favorable outcomes can emerge, even when circumstances appear uncertain. A person who expects good remains open to possibilities that others overlook, because their attention is focused on opportunity rather than limitation. The subconscious mind responds strongly to expectation, because expectation carries emotional energy. A thought repeated with conviction becomes more influential than a thought entertained casually. When someone genuinely expects abundance, their emotional state begins aligning with that expectation. They feel hopeful, confident, and receptive. These emotions reinforce the belief and strengthen its influence within the subconscious mind. Many people have experienced the power of expectation without realizing it. They may have anticipated an important event and noticed how their thoughts, feelings, and actions naturally aligned with that expectation. They prepared mentally because they believed something was coming. The same principle applies to abundance. When a person expects prosperity, they begin preparing for it internally. Their thinking changes, their choices change, their awareness changes. Expectation also affects the opportunities people recognize. Two individuals may encounter the same situation, yet respond very differently. One expects good and notices potential. The other expects disappointment and sees only risk. The opportunity itself may be identical, but their expectations influence how they interpret it. The person who expects favorable outcomes is often more willing to take constructive action, and therefore experiences better results. Faith and expectation work together. Faith provides confidence in unseen possibilities, while expectation acts as the anticipation of their arrival. Together they create a powerful mental atmosphere. Instead of constantly wondering whether good will appear, the individual begins assuming that good is already on its way. This attitude creates emotional stability because it reduces fear and uncertainty. Daily affirmations can help strengthen positive expectation. Statements such as, "Wonderful opportunities are coming to me," "Everything is working for my highest good," or "I expect abundance in perfect ways," gradually influence subconscious beliefs. Repetition establishes familiarity, and familiarity develops into expectation. Over time, these new expectations begin replacing old patterns of doubt and limitation. Visualization is another powerful tool. When people regularly imagine themselves experiencing success, prosperity, and fulfillment, they create mental images that support positive expectation. The subconscious mind becomes accustomed to these images and begins accepting them as natural possibilities. As expectation grows, confidence increases, and resistance decreases. One of the greatest shifts occurs when individuals stop expecting problems as a default condition of life. Instead of assuming that something will go wrong, they begin anticipating favorable outcomes. Instead of wondering where help will come from, they trust that the necessary resources will appear. Instead of preparing for disappointment, they prepare to receive blessings. Their consciousness becomes aligned with abundance, opportunity, and possibility. What they consistently expect begins shaping what they notice, what they attract, and what they are ultimately prepared to receive. Trusting perfect timing and perfect ways is one of the most important lessons in the journey toward abundance. Many people believe that prosperity should arrive according to their own schedule and through the specific channels they have chosen. They become attached to certain outcomes, certain opportunities, and certain methods. When life does not unfold exactly as expected, frustration begins to appear. Doubt replaces faith, impatience replaces confidence, and anxiety begins to interfere with the natural flow of abundance. The human mind often wants immediate results. It wants certainty, visible evidence, and clear answers. It prefers knowing exactly how and when every desire will be fulfilled. Yet life frequently operates according to a larger pattern than the mind can fully understand. Opportunities are connected to circumstances, people, timing, preparation, and countless unseen factors. What appears to be a delay may actually be part of a greater process that is arranging conditions for a better outcome. When people become impatient, they often focus on what has not happened, rather than what is unfolding behind the scenes. They assume that because they cannot see progress, no progress exists. However, many of life's greatest developments occur invisibly before they become visible. Just as a seed grows beneath the soil before it emerges above the ground, opportunities often develop long before they appear in physical form. Trust requires the willingness to believe in progress, even when evidence is not immediately available. It means maintaining confidence during periods of uncertainty. It means understanding that not every unanswered desire represents rejection. Sometimes a delay exists because something better is being prepared. Sometimes a door remains closed because another opportunity is waiting that aligns more perfectly with one's highest good. Many people can look back on their lives and recognize situations that initially seemed disappointing but later proved beneficial. An opportunity that failed to materialize may have protected them from future difficulties. A delay that caused frustration may have allowed a better option to emerge. A path that appeared blocked may have redirected them toward greater success. In hindsight, events often reveal a wisdom that was not obvious in the moment. The phrase "perfect ways" carries a powerful message. It reminds us that abundance is not limited to the channels we can currently see. The mind tends to focus on familiar possibilities, but life contains countless pathways through which prosperity can arrive. New ideas can emerge unexpectedly. Valuable relationships can form at the right time. Information can appear that changes everything. Opportunities can come from directions that were never anticipated. Limitation often occurs when people insist that abundance must arrive through one specific source. They become so focused on a single possibility that they overlook many others. Trusting perfect ways means remaining open. It means allowing life to surprise you. It means understanding that the source of abundance is far greater than any individual channel through which it may appear. Faith becomes especially important during times when results seem distant. The temptation during such periods is to abandon confidence and return to fear. Yet it is often during these moments that trust becomes most valuable. Faith allows a person to continue moving forward, even when the destination is not yet visible. It creates stability amid uncertainty and encourages persistence when immediate rewards are absent. Patience is not passive waiting, it is active confidence. It is the ability to remain calm while continuing to take constructive action. A patient person does not stop pursuing goals. They simply refuse to allow worry to dominate their thoughts. They understand that every step has value, and that progress is occurring even when it cannot yet be measured. Trust also reduces resistance. Fear creates tension because it is constantly trying to control outcomes. It demands answers, guarantees, and immediate proof. Trust relaxes this tension. It allows people to focus on what they can do today, while releasing concern about details beyond their control. This state of openness often makes it easier to recognize opportunities as they appear. When individuals truly trust perfect timing and perfect ways, they stop measuring success solely by immediate results. They begin appreciating the process itself. They recognize that preparation has value, that growth has value, and that every experience contributes to a larger unfolding pattern. Their confidence no longer depends entirely upon present appearances. Instead, it is rooted in the understanding that life is continually moving toward greater good, that opportunities are being arranged in unseen ways, and that abundance can arrive through channels more remarkable than anything the limited mind could have planned for itself.